Hey, it's Aaron, Metal Theologian, back after a little bit of a break. So I was out of town for about a week. I sort of alluded to that, I think, before the video, but we were up in New England visiting my wife's family, and I actually had the opportunity to meet up with Mr. Jason Hook of Get Into It with Jason Hook fame. I hope you all subscribe to his channel. Not that he's like active or anything, but feel free to like lay some shit on him for not uploading because his channel's fun and he's an awesome guy. Anyway, I don't know. It's nice. I've been doing this channel for a while now, and if there's one thing that I've really gotten out of it, aside from the interactions with people in the chat and that sort of thing, is just the friends I've made of all around the country. And yeah, a lot of it's other people who have channels and that sort of thing too. But even just like replying to comments and that, I mean, I've known some of y'all for years, and I still don't know your names. So it's all good, man. The alias is all it takes, I suppose. We can still hang out and bullshit. All right, so we're going to talk about that, but we have I have a couple shout outs I don't want to forget here because I'm inclined to forget this thing. So first of all, speaking of people who I've met, I want to give a shout out to my new friend from Croatia, of all places. I believe I get a huge kick out of the fact that people watch my channel in Eastern Europe. But yeah, dude didn't actually, he didn't use his name, but someone reached out to me on Discogs, like figured out what my seller ID was and just sent me a really friendly message. So I appreciate that sort of thing a lot, man. So you know who you are. If you're in Croatia watching this, shout out to you, man, and thank you for making my day with that friendly note you sent me. So the other one is, I don't buy records for content, like ever. I don't even like the word content, actually. I don't know if you noticed, I've kind of bitched about this a little bit before, but I briefly worked for a company, I guess I'll say nameless, but it's a company where what they do is they serve up the ads that you see on websites and shit like that, and like eBay is is a big client, and you can imagine what sorts of clients they have too. But the word content is the word they use for basically all the shit that isn't the ads. Because what they care about is the ads, right? Because they're serving the ads, they're getting paid to place the ads, and it's all about that sort of like money aspect of it. You know what I mean? And content just felt like sort of a dismissive, like, yeah, whatever. That's just the content. What we're focused on is the ads. And I mean, I don't think any of us are really under any illusions about the fact that YouTube is a business and Google is a business, and shit like that. But when I hear people referring to their own stuff that they're making, like their own arts, when I hear people using the word content to describe that, it kind of bums me out just a tiny little bit. And not to shit on anybody. I mean, some of my best friends in this community do that without thinking about it. That's fine. I mean, I may not like the word, but clearly it's like a dominant word in the area. But anyway, all this by way of saying I don't buy records for content. Believe it or not. I mean, I will like buy a shitty record or maybe one with a little more scribbling on it over one with a little less on because it's more fun to show in a video. But I don't actually buy shit for content. I did, however, buy a t-shirt for content. And there's a shout out to Bill over at Bill's Box of Sound. If you know, you know. All right. So let's talk about some records. We're listening to, I didn't know this one existed until pretty recently, okay? So, as some of y'all may have surmised, I really like, old, like, Eastern Bloc metal. And a lot of my favorite bands tend to be Russian. I mean, there's some good Bulgarian ones. There are actually lots of good Polish bands. Some good Hungarian ones, some good Croatian ones. But the Russians really kind of seem to have it going on. I mean, they had the most population too, but it kind of took the longest. So, just before things sort of loosened up enough under the sort of the late Soviet years into like the early non-Soviet years and that sort of thing. So yeah, one of my personal adages it hasn't always been, but as I've learned about this stuff has been that for like sort of the classic like 80s metal shit, I do tend to think it cuts off around like 89, 90, 91. That's when a lot of the thrash bands kind of got samey and kind of superfluous. And I mean, that doesn't mean they aren't fun to listen to. You know what I mean? I can totally hang with a band like Toxic, they're just not really breaking any new ground. You know what I mean? What they're doing is cool. You know, and I like it. And actually, I have another example of that here. I just got this one when I was in a when I was looking around Connecticut. This Defiance record. This is actually a really good example of that. This is a really good record. You know, it's very technical. It's really well played. The songs are well written, and it's really cool. But it's from goddamn my eyes, man. '92, and it's not really breaking any new ground. You know what I mean? By 1992, if you were into thrash, you were gonna probably dig a record like this. If you weren't, you probably weren't. You know, and but there are two areas where just because of other circumstances, because they tended to be a little bit late, there are a couple areas of the world where that was just a sort of kind of the golden age, the early 90s, really more than the 80s. And the one was Jesus metal, man. The Jesus metal bands were always a couple of years behind the secular bands. But the other was the Russian bands, man. And yeah, and so I've been collecting this stuff for a while as I come across it. But this is one that Nuclear War Now put out this version of that I'd never heard of before. They're called Dracula. And frankly, if a band is called Dracula, that's really all I need to know. Then if the title of the record is Sonata dla Satany, yeah, I'm in, you know? So this is a fucking fun record. Check out this fucking poster too, man. This thing makes me laugh. And you gotta love Dracula spelled in the Cyrillic alphabet too, right? It's so good, man. Yeah, anyway, so that's what we're listening to right now. And as you can hear, you know, it kind of has the right level of sort of shit factor. You know, it's definitely rough. Not a whole lot of, you know, production prowess going on this thing. But this is really exactly the kind of sound that I'm looking for when I'm going for this kind of shit, you know what I mean? Some of the bands like Graveside or Phantasm, they're good, but they're a little more death metal than what I reach for day to day. I really like First Aid, and I really like Joker, but those are, especially Joker, not so much First Aid, but those are kind of more sort of going into a glam direction a little bit, which is very funny to me to hear from, like, you know, people that grew up in the Soviet Union. But hey, man, I'm here for it. But this is really sort of the classic, like, kind of shitty, like, Russian, like, super underproduced, all balls, all just, like, attitude, and just translating to a fantastic fucking record, you know? And as per usual, Nuclear War Now shit is cheap, so I salute for that. Yes, that's what we're listening to right now. It's funny, I've been playing this a lot, and I've also been listening to a lot of jazz. But let's talk about Hook first, actually, because here's another little fucking funny story about knowing people in the community. So, you know, as is relatively common, I've you know, been sort of friendly with Hook online for probably 8 years by now or something like that. But this is the first time we actually met up in person, and he drove out from Boston to pick me up in Hartford, and then we went around, and he was like, oh, I know what I'm doing, man. I've done this circuit before. And I'm like, shit, man, I don't want to impose on you, but I had a fucking great time. So anyway, he took me to a couple record stores, and the first one we went to, when we were leaving, actually it was the Archive was the name of the place, if I'm not mistaken. And they have, like, movies and shit like that, too. Anyway, I found a record, and Hook was saying, okay, so there's this tradition where when you're walking out of this place, you got to take a picture of you standing under the awning holding what you bought, okay? So, I got his picture. I took a picture of him, like, in his camera, and then he took one with me, and I was, you know, doing one of these. And he posts it somewhere. And Eric Bauer of High Defamation TV fame chimes in, and he goes, is Aaron holding an SSD record? Which I thought was hilarious, because this really isn't my normal fare. I mean, I turned on to SSD because Septic Death, whom I really loved a lot, did a cover of Glue. They sort of smashed it together with Out of Step with the World by a Minor Threat. Sort of a weird way to approach a cover. It's on the B side of the Burial single, which I was gonna, you know, so I'm just gonna grab it to show it because it's kind of cool, and I fucking love Septic Death. So, give me 1 second here. Walking off camera's like my signature move anyway, right? Fuck. Just tripped over some shit. Alright, so here we go. And actually, speaking of Cleveland shit, it's kind of funny that the way that I recognize my my box of Punk 45s. This isn't all Punk, but mostly is. But yeah, there's that hole right there, right? I'm sort of looking at it because it's put away. This is the one that's always in the front. Who Stole the Kishka by the Maddies Brothers. It's one of 2 polka records I own. Yeah, this is fuck, I can't even have some fucking hair in there. Yeah, this is the other one, man. I Lost My Kobasi by Dave Stacey, or by the Dave Stacey Orchestra. Fucking polka classic. Kind of a rare record, I think, but nobody gives a shit about it, so it's not like it's expensive. But if you grew up in Cleveland and you used to hear that shit on like The Ghoul and shows like that, then, you know, you might have a little bit of a soft spot for it, as I do. Anyway. Alright, so here we go. The fucking Septic Death, the Burial single. And there you can see on the B side it says Glue Step. And I knew Out of Step with the World when I first heard that, but I was like, what's this fucking Glue song, you know? Where's the back? I mean, it's credit. It says, you know, Minor Threat and SSD, so I was like, okay, who the hell is that? So I went and, like, investigated and came across a CD at the time of SSD. It was like a Tang comp. And honestly, it didn't really blow me away. I liked the song. But it wasn't like, you know, it didn't like change my life or anything like that. So, yeah, in case y'all were wondering, here's the Kichi Guy single too. It's another fucking fantastic record. So anyway, this one has glue on it. And I was like, man, I kind of feel like I ought to have the record with glue on it, you know? And it was right in front of me and it wasn't expensive. So I was like, you know something, we're going to fucking do it. So there's now an SSD record in my house, which I think I've played twice. Maybe 3 times, I think twice. But I'm going to play it a couple more times before I put it away. And I was going to make a joke about forgetting about it, but I probably won't forget about it, actually. Because that record is sort of like... It's had this weird sort of role in the periphery of my record collecting for, you know, 35 years now, maybe, since I got into Septic Death. So, you know. That's still kind of a long-term relationship, even if it's like the long-term relationship where you have the same bus driver for 30 years and you say hello to him every day. You know what I mean? And maybe that's the extent of your interaction, but like, he's still someone you care about, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about SSD. So yeah. So that's the SSD story. What else did we do on that trip? I don't know, man. I got a few different things. I've actually been listening to... Before I left, I was listening to a lot of Italian metal, and I was listening to a lot of soul jazz. I think I talked about the soul jazz video or 2 ago. Probably have the same stuff in there. But while I was away, I kind of got more interested in like hard bop, but part of that was set off because there were really only a couple Blue Note records that I was sort of keeping an eye out for, but this was one of them. There's no Blue Note logo here. I kind of hate it when they take it off. It says something about the legitimacy of the reissue, maybe. But whatever, I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars on a fucking original of something like this, you know? It's a cool record. I put it on and enjoy it. It sounds fine to me. That's what I'm in it for. I'm not in it for the, you know. Anyway. So yeah, I've been playing this Art Blakey record a fair bit. What else do I have here? Look at this one. I actually love this cover. Fucking Dexter Calling by Dexter Gordon. Also a really good album. And, you know, a pretty straight, you know, hard bop record. You know, if you're looking at just like the hard bop guys, I mean, the big guys are really kind of Art Blakey, Dexter Gordon. Horace Silver, I suppose, to a certain extent, actually to a pretty large extent. And then there are a lot of guys, of course, who made those kinds of records. Like John Coltrane made some great hard bop records. Miles Davis did too, you know. But it wasn't as career defining for those guys as it was for like Art Blakey or something like that. This is kind of an example of that too. I mean, this is definitely still pretty much a hard bop record, even though Jackie McLean got a lot more bold on subsequent records. But this is Bluesnick. I really like this record a lot, and I feel like it kind of gets overlooked a little bit from his Blue Note output. And I actually think pretty much everything Jackie McLean did for Blue Note was fantastic. Some of his prestige records kind of sound like he was cranking them out to feed a heroin habit, which of course is exactly what was going on, right? But by the time he went over to Blue Note, man, he pretty much had his shit under control, and he did all sorts of interesting stuff. I mean, you have Pete LaRocca on drums on here. That right there gives you an idea, because he's such an unusual drummer, you know? Until you have Freddie Hubbard on trumpet. Freddie Hubbard, if I'm not mistaken, is the only musician actually who played on both Ascension by John Coltrane and Free Jazz by Ornette Coleman. So, a little fun fact there. Anyway, you know, this is not the most like bold and sort of out there Jackie McLean record. Jackie McLean did a lot of what's really kind of my favorite stuff for the Blue Note, which is the stuff where the hard bop had been taken in and digested, and they've been listening to a lot of the free stuff, and they weren't going really free yet, but they were definitely stretching way out in what they were doing in these more sort of, I guess, traditional, for lack of lack of a better expression, sort of confines of, you know, the Blue Note sound, you know. So this is definitely not the same kind of record as like, you know, Let Freedom Ring or Action or Right Now or a record like that. But it's a really cool record in its own right, and it's inventive. It's, you know, and it's a fun record to listen to, man. That's what I'm in it for. Yeah, you know something. This one, I don't even think I played it yet. I just pulled it up to listen to, but I'm going to show it anyway because the cover is so unusual for a Blue Note. Speaking of Horace Silver, right? Horoscope. Actually, another one here that I think is even more underrated than that Jackie McLean record, maybe. Actually, this one, man, this is really more of sort of a soul jazz type of record, although it's really complex for a soul jazz record. This is sort of an unusual one. It's funny when I'm really like wanting to hear just like the straight, like sort of soul vibes of like, you know, Freddie Roach's organ or something like that. I don't gravitate towards this thing. We're sort of pulling it out in the context of sort of being on the edge between the bop stuff and the soul jazz. This record really hit the spot, man. There's a lot going on here. It's a lot more than just like blues scales and the sort of, you know, regular stuff you can expect from a soul jazz record. You know, he's talking about it. Oh, I don't know. I was going to start nitpicking the liner notes, but fuck that. Then it'll just get long and tedious. Here's the other one I sort of wanted to hype a little bit, because this is another fucking Blue Note that people don't talk about very much, that actually grabbed me right away when I first heard this. I snagged this one. It's Shades of Red by Freddie Red. I actually snagged this one when I was first getting into jazz, and you could get reissues like this for like $10. So I was just going and scooping shit up and bringing it home and spending some time with it to check it out. And this is sort of an early one that I latched onto, you know, that wasn't, you know, a Mingus or a Sun Ra or a Coltrane or someone like that, where I'd know their name going into it. You know, when I got this, I probably barely knew who Jackie McLean was, let alone, you know, Tina Brooks or Paul Chambers or anything like that. It's another really interesting record, man. There's a lot going on this one, and it's definitely within that sort of, you know, Blue Note sound, sort of, you know, the Blue Note sound is kind of like that classic, like it's like the perfected hard bop sound is kind of what I think of. Even though there are a lot of other things. I mean, Cecil Taylor and Don Cherry had straight up free jazz records on Blue Note. But for the most part, this thing fits pretty nicely in the paradigm. But again, it sort of does its own thing in ways that I haven't figured out how to articulate yet, to be honest with you. At least I can't articulate them any better than that fucking picture right there does. I mean, this is all I need to see to know I needed this fucking record, right? I mean, come on. Yeah, and on that note, actually, too, what the hell, man? I pulled this one out. This one didn't really scratch the itch. I think I might have played this one too many times in the past, but it's the only Tina Brooks album I own, True Blue. And it's a really good record, man. This record actually, it's not the same, but this record I feel like vibes out kind of similar to a Blue Train, actually, by John Coltrane. I mean, Coltrane's sound is so instantly recognizable that it's kind of hard to compare his stuff to anything, even his early stuff. But to the degree that you do that at all, I think this is kind of it, you know? So yeah, it's a cool record. And it's a guy, Tina Brooks. There's like some story in here about how it was tiny or something, and guy kind of mutated over time or whatever. But I don't know. I don't really give a shit. Yeah, so we've had those going on. Then we've got the Italian metal. All right. So if you hung in there for the jazz and the other shit for the last bit, we can bust out some of this shit. Fuck, I'll even like sample a couple of these with you. Actually, here's another one that I found in Connecticut. I was a little on the fence with this one because it looks so kind of, because the name is so bad. The Corporation Lounge, imported from America. Definitely looks like a private press. And they're definitely holding guitars on the back. You know? 4 songs, so you're not gonna, you're not going to like commit suicide. You don't have time to do it while you're listening to it. In 84, so it's kind of early. And, it's New Haven, Connecticut, too. So I bought it not very far from where it was cut. And that alone is worth a couple points for me. But when I brought this one home, I was really expecting it to suck. It was cheap. I was like, what the fuck? I'll roll the dice. You know what I mean? And it's cheap online, too. It's actually really good. In fact, I'm going to throw on a minute before I start hyping the Italian shit. We'll get to a couple of our Italian friends at the end, I guess, because I don't want to drag this out forever. But yeah, you know something? This is the sort of... It's funny. I talk about sort of these 7 out of 10 records where maybe they're not really special, but they're fun. And, like, not every record can be the best record. So, you need to fill it in with some of these 7 out of 10s, you know? I mean, there's another thing, right? I mean, that label looks nice and private, doesn't it? Again, Gustav Records doesn't really get me excited. But, I'll fire this up for a minute. Again, this is not the second coming of Peace of Mind. It's not even the second coming of, Power Games by Jaguar or anything like that. But it's pretty decent. The songs are good. The performance is competent. It doesn't sound overly slick or anything like that, you know what I mean? And they weren't doing like a glam or an AOR thing. It's like they were trying to like rock, you know? It's not bad at all. Pretty good groove, right? Yeah, this is the fucking Corporation Lounge. If you wouldn't have bought this off of lists, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't have either. This is good though, isn't it? It's what, like $10 or whatever I paid for this? Well spent, man. I played this a few times. Like I said, it's only 4 songs, so it doesn't leave you. It leaves you wanting more as opposed to overstaying its welcome, you know. Yeah, so here's what I haven't had all that long. Sort of one of the classic, like, Italian bands is Scanners, and to the best of my knowledge is their first album, Dirty Armada. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean, man. But, you know, what can I say? They're Italian. Look at that band photo, man. Fucking this dude's nose is bigger than the whole rest of the band. I think this is a good record. Given where these guys seem to stand in sort of the pantheon of Italian metal, which is to say, you know, it's not like, they're not like Angel Witch, you know, but they're, you know, they're known. People are into this sort of thing. Even if they make this mistake of the plural name, right? This is a really sort of hard rocky feeling record. And it's not bad at all, but it's not great. And honestly, I think I was hoping for a little bit more sort of a... What's that? That's a way heavier fucking guitar solo than I expected by a band called Corporation Lounge, you know? It's heavier than Scanners, too, honestly. And it's a little bit later, this record. I want to say it's like 86, something like that, 85, 86. I can't read that without taking it out of the bag. Anyway, it's an early Scanners record. It's not bad, but I was I was kind of hoping to be a little bit more excited by this one. I'll play it a few more times and see if maybe I come around on it. It's an enjoyable record, but the fact is, man, I can find a reason to enjoy just about any metal record. As long as it isn't too just fucking like cynically corporate or too just like kind of cringe glam. I can find a reason to like. I can excuse away whatever fucking flaws the record has. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even like the cover on this one, right? I mean, it's kind of dumb as hell, but it amuses me. And the fact that I don't know what the hell Dirty Armada is supposed to mean, that amuses me too. So like all these sort of negatives kind of become positives too. This is another one I pulled out, man. I've hyped this one before, but this has really gone from being sort of an also-ran among the Italian records that I have to be one of my favorites. This fucking Wyvern record, The Red Flame of Pain. I believe this is the only thing they ever released. And something? I've had their signature song, Wyvern, in my head for like all week. Can't ever show this without also highlighting that fucking bass player, man. There's decided paucity of mustaches on this thing, especially for an Italian band, but you know something? When you've got this dude in the band, fucking Fausto Tinello, I'm in, man. But seriously, like, no bullshit, this record is really good. Don't let the song titles like, Adolescent Sex or Prophecy misspelled scare you away. It's a fantastic metal record. I think it's like 90-ish too. It's a little bit on the late side. See, here's where the corn comes out on this record, right? But it's not bad at all. Yeah, this one though just has the hooks, the melodies, and just the appeal. It's definitely not overproduced, and I fucking love it, man. I can't hype Wyvern enough. Here's another one that's maybe a little bit more on the weenie side. But this one wins me over. Rising Power. First of all, look at that cover. I mean, if you watch my channel, you know I can't pass this shit up. Right? But like, this is kind of hard rocky, not super heavy. But these guys are just there with the songs, man. The fucking songwriting is what wins the day on this record. That's funny, they have all their Rising Power equipment listed out on the back if anyone gives a shit. Although it looks like they might have gotten a sponsorship for a music store. Maybe if I knew more Italian, I could like explain the whole story, but anyway, man. They're fucking snooze on Rising Power. Apparently they made another record after this one. I don't have it. Maybe I'll snag it someday. But I'm a little on the fence because I'm not sure if this is the sort of band where I need 2 records by. You know what I mean? Like Dwar is sort of an example of this. One Dwar record really would have been enough. You know what I mean? There's that first one with the Statue of Liberty on, and the title's escaping me. And then there's Animals. And Animals is really the heavier record. But the first one's kind of more eccentric and more so... Like the fact that it's not as focused as Animals kind of makes me like it. I've also had it longer than Animals, so that's maybe a little thumb on the scale too. But Animals is probably the better record, but in any case, I don't know if that band needed 2 records. You know what I'm saying? But, I don't have a whole lot of willpower when it comes to this kind of art. I mean, just the fact that the fucking logo looks so hand-drawn. You gotta love it, man. So yeah, shit like that, man. I have about a half hour, fucking. I don't want to like waste y'all's whole day, so. Here's another really good one, man, by Serrano Officina. I think this is their first record. It's just an EP. I was telling my kid, when you get records from all over the place, you learn how the word side in all sorts of different languages. So in Italian, it's lato. In French, it's face. In German, it's Seite. And I don't remember what it is in Russian right off, but I know I've come across it. All right. Well, I think that's about what I've got to show today. So, as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, not starting another one because I'm going to go to bed as soon as I turn off the camera. I do make these in the middle of the night most of the time. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll reply to all the comments, and I will see you soon.